wrestling fans, and welcome to another episode of the internationally known Dudes of Ringside podcast. I'm your host, Joe the Panther the Third, and they always say that wrestling has one royal family, but I think that's pish posh. Introducing my guest for tonight's episode, the one, the only, Papa Panther.
Joe the Panther the Second.
Awesome. I'm sorry. So
my daddy was number one.
Right here, Grandpa Jose Quinones. So Dad, Papa Panther, you want to say anything before we introduce our guest?
Well, I hope this is a great show, and we got a lot of good questions to ask tonight.
You want to introduce the guest, Papa Panther? Let's give a warm Dudes at Ringside welcome to a young lady that is a rising star in the independent wrestling scene. Let's give a warm Dudes at Ringside welcome to Lady Blake.
Welcome.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
God, welcome. So, if our internationally known fans are not familiar with you, and why would they not be, introduce yourself.
So my name is Lady Blakely, and I am the first female graduate from Matt Tremont's H2O Wrestling Academy. And I've been on the scene for about 2 years now and just recently started doing death matches and was lucky enough to have opportunities, not one, but 2 opportunities in Matt's recent tournaments at H2O Wrestling Center.
Wow.
That's great.
So, Blake, you said you went to the H2O school. So, what kind of advice did they give you?
So, when I started training at H2O Wrestling Academy, I was completely green. I didn't know anything at all about the opposite side of the guardrail. And they literally taught me everything that I know about wrestling in and out of the ring and carrying yourself throughout the industry. So as far as what advice they gave me, kind of hard to pinpoint one specific thing because, like I said, everything that I learned at H2O.
Next question, Papa Panther.
What inspired you as a young lady to become a wrestler? I mean, it's interesting to know.
So the thing that first inspired me to want to wrestle in general, not any particular niche of wrestling, just what first sparked my interest in it. This actually was when I was really young. When I was growing up, my next door neighbor was this girl named Jenna, and she was the very first girl in my school district. She was a couple years older than me. First girl to get onto the wrestling team. And she was good friends with my older brother, and just because of being around her and seeing her wrestle, and she had a really big impact on me, and I really wanted to be like her. So that was what first made me start getting interested in wrestling, was seeing this teeny tiny girl who, like I said, she was a lot older than me. She was about 4 or 5 years older than me, but she's half my size. And seeing her kick boys' butts all day when I was in 2nd grade and she was in 6th grade, that was wildly inspiring to me. As far as hardcore wrestling and further on deathmatch wrestling, so the first little bit of inspiration that I got in the hardcore realm was I was about 11 or 12 years old or so, and I was watching WrestleMania at my best friend's house. It was the first WrestleMania I'd ever seen. And I showed up a little bit late, and the match that I walked into was Edge versus Mick Foley. And I was just so blown away by this match. The moment I walked in, hooked. So as they say, the rest is history. I saw that match and I was like, wow, this Mick Foley guy. Wow, this Edge guy. Wow, that Lita chick. Wow. Every bit of it blew my mind and just from that day on, I was hooked. Hardcore wrestling, that was my shit. Sorry, am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, you can. Yes.
Okay.
So with you doing like deathmatch, is there any like for you, is there any like point that you're like, nah, I'm not doing that. No, no.
All right. So I don't necessarily say there's something I'm hard like no, never going to do it. Though I would say I definitely want to build up. Like, you don't run before you can walk, and you don't dive off of a 20-foot ladder before you've dove off a 10-foot ladder, you know. That being said, there's a couple of crazy gimmicks that I haven't done yet that I'm really excited to do, especially barbed wire. Like, I've got a little bit of a taste of barbed wire, but I definitely want to do a lot more with that.
I can best describe a wrestling match. This is my description of a wrestling match as two gladiators doing the dance of a ballerina, because it takes talent. I know it takes talent to jump, fly, break the falls, and not get hurt. And people have to give you guys credit for that. But what made you go from actual regular wrestling to the hardcore wrestling, and how would you best describe that for an audience? The difference there.
So, as obviously when you're learning how to wrestle, you're going to start with the basics, like, needless to say. When I started learning all of the technical side, I guess it was slightly harder for me to grasp how to do everything rather than the psychology side of, oh, this is how I would, work in a hardcore zone.
Right.
For lack of a better term. That being said, when I finally got the chance to build up to the point where I could handle the heavier physical impact from doing hardcore matches, once I got into that, the mindset shift was just so instant, and I just immediately felt like I was in my element. The psychology is similar, but it definitely changes once you switch from using your bare hands and your feet to using weapons, for sure. And yeah, I would definitely say some people are absolutely on top of their element when they're doing the technical side, but I definitely feel more drawn to when I get to go hardcore. There's just something in me it's easier to tap into once I'm going hardcore.
Right.
Yeah. So, what was your energy like when you went into like your first match? What was it like?
So my first standard rules match or my first hardcore match?
I guess your first match. I guess hardcore match or match, whichever. Both, actually, probably.
Okay. So my debut match was a 3-on-3 tag match. I was working with the president, Eddie Hawkins, and Nicholas Grand, both H2O alumni, and some fellow graduates on the opposing team, Gigi Everson, Big Red Ryan Redfield, and Leroy Robinson. And first of all, all of them I trained with from pretty much from day one, and like there was a very happy vibe for me going into it because I really love working with all those guys. And there's a little bit of nervousness going into it because it was my debut match, but I knew what I was getting into, essentially.
You're in good hands.
Exactly. You know, especially working one-on-one with Eddie, not for nothing. I got to put that guy over, the president, Eddie Hawkins. He is one of the most underrated people on our roster, and he's been around for, 10 plus years, and he is phenomenal at what he does. And working with him for as long as I did when I was getting my start is also a big part of why I have as much confidence as I do in the ring now. So big shout out to Eddie Hawkins there.
Cool.
But as far as the mindset shift from that debut match going into the first hardcore match, there obviously when I was getting ready for the debut, there's that, anticipation, that like the moment you've been waiting for. You've been working so hard for this for like almost 2 years now, and you're finally getting this moment. But the hardcore match, that itch that I had been waiting for 25 plus years to scratch that itch. Oh my God, it was indescribable, honestly. Like, I don't know how to put into words the satisfaction that I felt walking out of the ring after that match. It wasn't even a long match. It was like a 3.5, 4 minute Kitchen Nightmares themed hardcore match against Devin Moore. And wow. Devin took a pizza cutter to my forehead during the match, and that was what got me opened up, and I got that first feeling like, you made me bleed my own blood. But it was so satisfying. Like, I really just don't know how to describe it. It was like, it just opened up another world for me. I feel like that it just changed me. I became another animal.
Wow. So if you knew an advice that you would give another wrestler that wants to go from regular wrestling to hardcore wrestling, what advice would you give him?
So the biggest thing I would say is don't dive in too hard too fast. Like, know what you're capable of at first. Right. But always at the same time be willing to push yourself, because if you don't kind of push the barriers of what you think you're capable of, you're never going to find out if you're capable of more. A prime example of that was prior to King of the No Ring Death Match, back in February, I honestly had been a little bit nervous of doing headbutts, just because, like, I've seen how hard some people crack each other with those headbutts. And when Chando came at me for that headbutt, I just looked him in the eyes and I was like, well, this is happening. And he hit me, and I took it in that first moment and just was like, all right, throw it back. And then each consecutive headbutt after that, oh my gosh, I was feeling it more and more. And I'm like, oh boy, we're in it to win it, aren't we? Wow. But I never would have figured out if I could handle it if I didn't just take that deep breath and be like, all right, if we're doing this, go for it.
Right.
So that's what advice I would give to someone trying to get in, is make sure you know what you are capable of, but be willing to trust yourself and your opponent to push the boundaries just a little bit, to make sure you know what you're capable of.
Yeah. So my most popular question when I ask a deathmatch wrestler, my favorite question: Legos or tacks? Which one is it for you?
Oh my gosh. So I actually had a lot of fun working with Legos before. I know a lot of people say that Legos is just like, oh no, that's too brutal. If I had to choose Legos or tax, because I've taken both, and I actually, in all honesty, I felt the tax less in the heat of the moment, but I just like the Legos more. I guess I'm a little twisted there. The tax, they puncture you and then they're there, you know. The Legos, it's a blunt object. You feel that they leave imprints on your skin, like. But I don't know, I just like them more.
Do you, from most of the matches that you've had, do you have a lot of scars on your body from when
I
you?
actually have minimal scars so far. I have been lucky enough that most of the blood that you see is surface level. Nothing's cut me too deep. I've seen some shit though.
You've never got stitches from it, right?
um, Knock on. I need to find some wood to knock on, but not yet. I have not had stitches yet.
So where do you see yourself going in, say, 5 years? Where do you see yourself being?
5 to 10.
5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
See, I definitely want to continue working deathmatch for as long as my body can handle it, because like I said, this is just the mindset that I get into going into the ring for a standard match versus a death match. It's just the feeling is just so vastly different when I'm working on a standard rules match. I'm so much more in my head and concerned, like, about what moves am I going to do, how am I going to make sure I, like, how am I going to handle everything, etc. It's very uh, cognitive, I guess. With a death match, for me, it just feels more natural, and because of that, I want to be able to do this for as long as possible. I'd like to be able to do more tournaments in the future, because I had so much fun in King of the No Ring and in Angels of Death. And I definitely want to start branching out a little bit more into some of the other states around, because I've primarily been wrestling at H2O in South Jersey, and dabbling a little bit in the surrounding areas like North Jersey and Philadelphia. But to be fair, I also haven't done any death matches outside of the H2O arena. So looking forward to spreading my wings there, and I'd love to eventually, get to the West Coast and work there as well.
So, do you prefer fighting men or women or both?
I wouldn't say I have a preference, honestly. There's a lot of different things that you can do with an opponent of the same gender, and there's a lot of different things you can do with an opponent of the opposite gender. And there's always a different story that you can tell with every individual. So I wouldn't really say that I have a favorite type of opponent to wrestle. It definitely varies from person to person.
Okay.
So are you strictly hardcore then? You don't do regular wrestling?
It's not that I don't do regular wrestling. I just lately I haven't done it, and I will, like I said, I will say till I'm blue in the face, hardcore is my bread and butter. That's what I have the most fun with.
Right. Right. I got you. Do you is there another mode of employment that you have other than, do you strictly earn your income from wrestling? Do you have a day job
Um,
or strictly wrestling?
I I do have a day job, but I would prefer to keep that more private.
Yes.
Yes,
No,
we
yes.
understand. Okay.
Yes.
So we're gonna get to the fun part of the interview. What kind of food do you like?
Okay, so my favorite unhealthy food for sure is pizza, but I try my best to not eat pizza regularly. So if I had to pick my one favorite healthy thing, it's shrimp. I eat shrimp as like my number one protein source. I absolutely love it because it's so lean and it's delicious.
Mhm.
You said
I'll
pizza.
put
What
shrimp on
kind of?
anything.
We're this Panther family right here is pizza. We're a pizza family.
We love Sicilian.
Oh yeah. Sicilian's pretty good. I'm a fan of the Sicilian. So I used to live in New York. That's where I grew up.
Okay.
So obviously, a big fan of New York style pizza. Um,
Brooklyn.
Sicilian, I started getting more once I came down here because Sicilian's the popular thing down here I've seen, and you guys have some really slamming Sicilian pies. Um, I am also a really big fan of doing crazy toppings on pizza. Like I am on the pro pineapple bandwagon.
It depends.
Yeah, no, I know. It's controversial, isn't it?
Depends. It depends. Like, if you put like just plain pineapple, eh, but if you put it with like
Fair
ham,
enough.
maybe.
Pineapple and bacon. Pineapple and bacon.
Gotta try that.
I tried that,
Pineapple
yeah.
and bacon.
Yeah, you haven't tried it with bacon?
No, we try that.
Oh,
Sounds good.
definitely do it. It's a
Yeah.
treat.
You can have to try that on Friday,
Uh,
maybe.
Do you have any hobbies?
I do actually. I'm a writer. I started writing when I was in my early teens, and my favorite genre is horror. I'm a big horror buff.
Oh,
So when I started writing in my teens, of course, it was the trend back then. I wrote a brief little vampire story that will never see the light of day. But then after I got that rough draft out of the way, I started working on the zombie horror genre, and I kind of took off with that for a long time when I was in my later teens. And eventually, sometime soon, that one, you might be seeing some books coming out sometime soon. The
mm.
book's called Day One, by the way.
Cool.
Oh wow. Hey, we never know. We may have a Panther. We may have a future what is that word with the book?
Okay.
Author. What's that with the books? New York number one seller right here with
Yeah.
Lady Lake.
Maybe, it's good to have goals.
When you make it big, don't forget about the little people. Don't forget the Panther family here.
Oh, of course, of course.
Don't remember you.
So what's your next match? And do you have any grudges
So
with anyone out there?
So the next match that I'm going to be in is about 1 week from now on Monday, April 3rd. Yeah, April 3rd. I'm going to be in the Battle Royal for the number one contender at H2O to get the hybrid championship belt. So whoever wins this Battle Royal is next in line for the hybrid championship.
Wow.
And
Where's-
while I wouldn't say I have any grudges in the match, I will say that all three members of my team are in it, so it's going to be very interesting.
Mm.
So where is it going to be located?
So that's H2O Wrestling Center in Williamstown, New Jersey, the address for which is 1041 Glassboro Road, Building C in Williamstown, New Jersey.
All
There
right.
you go. That's cool. And you said you grew up in Brooklyn. What made you go to Jersey from Brooklyn?
So I actually didn't say Brooklyn. I'm from New York, but I am from a tiny little town about 30 miles outside of New York City. Now, New York City is my city. That's where I used to hang out, and I used to bartend in the city, but I never actually lived in New York City. The tiny little town that I grew up in, which if you looked at a map, you probably wouldn't even find it, is called Sloatsburg.
Oh, I know where that's
Yeah,
at.
we take the train and we go past that. Wow.
You know the Sloatsburg train station? That's how I literally used to hop on the train station in Sloatsburg and go to Manhattan, and then there you go.
Port Jervis to get to New York City all the time. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
So it's not that small, I guess, huh?
Not at all.
Now,
In
have you
fact,
ever gotten off the train station in Sloatsburg and looked around? Or do
No,
you
we
just
never
pass
got
it?
out. Man, one day we'll take a trip to the
maybe
hotel.
we will.
So if you like craft beer, there's this bar like a block away from the train station called Seven Lake Station. I used to be bartender at that bar when they first opened in 2016. So highly recommend if you stop in Sloatsburg, check out Seven Lake Station. They have amazing craft beer, and it's been a little while since I've been up in New York, but last time that I was there, they had a sandwich menu and served hot pretzels as well. So, very nice little craft beer bar.
Sounds good.
You're gonna have to send us the address at the end of the interview on Instagram. We'll have to check it
Absolutely.
out. I'll definitely have to check it out.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to.
And if you're ever
Hi, Martine and Jamie, if you're watching this, those are the owners of the bar.
tell them about the episode and I'll send you the link for when the episode's live so they can watch it,
Yeah, really.
Awesome. Yes.
Definitely.
So
So how many times a week would you say that you work out or train to stay in shape for what you do?
So we do training on Thursdays, and I'm usually in and out of the gym throughout the week. I try to have 2 rest days a week, but you know.
Mm.
So I definitely would say that conditioning is incredibly important to be able to keep up with the impact that not just my niche of wrestling, but literally any niche of wrestling, you have to be and constantly taking care of yourself. Every time that we fall down and hit the ring, we're doing damage to ourselves, even if we're registering it or not.
Right.
My last question, who was your childhood inspiration to become a professional wrestler? Manager or a wrestler? Either one.
So the first that I would say, like the first famous wrestler, I should say, because obviously, like I said earlier, my next door neighbor Jenna had inspired me to just get into it. But the first big name that really made me be like, wow, I want to be like them was Travis. Like probably like every other girl my age at the time.
Are there faces and heels where you're at? Are you considered a heel or a face?
Right now, I would consider myself to be a face. I was definitely more of a heel when I first started out. I will say that.
Okay. We would like to thank you for coming on the podcast, and we would love to have you come back on in a future episode if you ever want to come back on.
Awesome. I would be happy to. Thank you for having me this time.
No problem. I'm Joe Panther III.
Joe Panther II.
And wrong way. And
Joe
Lady
Panthers.
Blakely. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were pointing to me.
Their turn.
Hi, it's me. Just being awkward over here.
And we will catch you in the next one.
See ya.
Thanks. Bye.
Ending.